The fifth session of the Senate, the first regular session of the 19th Congress is hereby called to order. Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa will lead us into prayer.
I invite all the Catholics among us to make the sign of the cross. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Almighty Father, we come before you today, stripped of the prestige of our position and the pretense of our humanity. Instead, we stand fully aware that we are your creation, beloved and formed, for the sole purpose of establishing your presence and love on this earth. You are the God who moves us to act in the name of truth and goodness, the God who challenges us to move beyond our comfort zones, to choose to do what is right, no matter how unsettling or inconvenient. The same God who asked in Isaiah chapter 6, verse 8, "Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?" In your presence and in the presence of those who are most in need, this Senate declares, "Here we are, Father, send us forth. Send us to where many would not dare go. In the midst of earthquakes, typhoons, and other calamities, we are ever ready to help. Send us to always represent those who are lost, least and last. In the face of hardship and poverty, we shall respond with kindness and generosity. Send us to formulate, deliberate, and pass policies that will restore justice and peace to society. The kind that the world cannot give, the kind that only you can provide. We place our full confidence in you as we declare in Psalm 91 that whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. For you are our refuge, our fortress, our God in whom we trust. We also pray for our majority floor leader, a true friend in the Senate, Senator Joel Villanueva, who celebrates his birthday today. May he always abound in your wisdom and grace as he fulfills his duties, being both leader and servant. Amen. In the name of the Father, of the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
May I direct the Secretary to please call the roll.
Roll call of members. The Honorable Senator Angara, Senator Binay, Senator Cayetano Alan, Senator Cayetano Pia, Senator De La Rosa, Senator Ejercito, Senator Escudero, Senator Estrada, Senator Gatchalian, Senator Go, Senator Ontiveros, Senator Lapid, Senator Legarda, Senator Marcos, Senator Padilla, Senator Pimentel, Senator Poe, Senator Revilla, Senator Tolentino, Senator Tulfo, Senator Villanueva, Senator Villar Cynthia, Senator Villar Mark, the Senate President.
With 21 senators physically present and 1 senator virtually present as he is exposed to COVID-19, for a total of 22 senators present, the chair declares the presence of the quorum. Before we recognize the majority leader, I would like to greet our majority floor leader. A very, very happy birthday, sir.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
hope God
President.
continues to bless you and your family always. Happy birthday.
Thank you, Mr. President. And this representation will not be remiss of his duty to treat his colleagues at the Senate lounge, Mr. President. Mr. President,
Mr. President, isn't
Yes.
it tradition to suspend so we can greet the celebrant?
Yes.
I know he's the hardworking majority floor leader, but let's give him a 1 minute that the attention is all on him.
Yes.
And, you know,
Session
so,
suspended for a minute. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, at this juncture, this is to manifest for the record the unanimous agreement reached in yesterday's caucus allowing remote or electronic participation of a senator who tested positive of COVID-19 or is considered as symptomatic close contact as allowed by our rules, Section 4, letter B. With that, Mr. President, may we recognize the remote participation of Senator Francis Chis Escudero through video conferencing, Mr. President.
The manifestation of the majority leader is duly noted, and remote participation of the gentleman from Sorsogon is hereby recognized. Just for the record, maybe he can also open his camera to manifest that he is present, and then he can suspend if he's not. We will just contact his chief of staff. Please proceed, Majority Leader. Remember our rules in the last Congress. When you're still online, there's still proper decorum, meaning that either you wear a polo barong or jacket over your shirt.
Thank you, Mr. President. And just for the record, we have seen Senator Chis a while ago, Mr. President.
Okay.
Anyway, Mr. President, we are blessed today with the presence. There, Senator Chis is there, Mr. President.
There you go.
Just to put on record. Thank
Very
you.
good. Thank you.
Mr.
Welcome,
President.
Senator Escudero. Welcome, sir. Okay.
Yes, Mr. President, at this juncture, we would like to acknowledge some guests from the gallery. First, the guest of Senator Grace Poe, Mayor Ben Patron of San Jose, Batangas. The guest of Senator Lauren Ligarda, Ms. Samira Gutok of Ako Bakwit, Inc. Guest of Senator Go, Mayor Rodessa Revita, Mayor Joseph Kaingkoy, Mayor Bernie Takoy. They are from Leyte and Biliran, Mr. President. Also guests of our Senate President, the President of Northern Bukidnon State College, President Catherine Ruin Almaden, the President of Agusan del Sur State College of Agriculture and Technology, President Joy Capistrano, President of Sulu State College, President Karisma Talum, President of State College of Basilan, President Haipan Salain, President of J.H. Harires State College, President Mary Jocelyn Batung, and President of Central Mindanao University, President Jess Derihe. And also, Mr. President, the guest of our Senate President Mig Subiri, the Vice Mayor of Lugus Sulu, Vice Mayor Almedzar Hajiri, and Professor Freddy Concepcion of Mindanao State University, Sabit Ali. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank
Welcome
you.
to the Senate.
Welcome to the Senate, our dear fellow public servants. Maraming salamat sa pagbisita ninyo.
Yes, Mr. President, before I ask for the recognition of Senator Grace Poe, may I just give a very short manifestation of this very good news, not only for all of us, but most especially for our indigent senior citizens, Mr. President. Dear colleagues, Mr. President, may I ask for your indulgence while I pour my heart out in gratitude to our Lord God for His unspeakable and love and blessings. Today is a testament to this abounding blessing because one of the happy bills, as you put it, Mr. President, which we have passed in the 18th Congress, is now a law. Mr. President, I'm referring to Republic Act number 11916, or an act increasing the social pension of indigent senior citizens, which will double the monthly social pension of our lolos and lolas from 500 pesos to 1,000 pesos. This is indeed, Mr. President, as you would always say, a great legacy of the 18th Congress. Ito rin po ang pinakamagandang regalo ng kasalukuyang administrasyon sa lahat ng ating mga nakakatanda, lalo na po sa humigit kumulang 4 na milyong mga Pilipinong edad 6 na po pataas na wala ng ibang inaasahan kundi ang kanilang buwanang pensyon. Indulge me again, Mr. President, dear colleagues, if I say this law is the best birthday gift I received. Let me add that among the laws we deliberated in the last Congress, this is the most memorable measure, Mr. President, because we caught COVID-19 while discussing this measure here in this very floor, Mr. President. Alam po yan ng mga nakasama natin sa public hearing, sa social pension bill, sila Senator Risa, Senator Amy, Senator Nancy, at sa lahat po ng mga authors, lalo na po kay former Senate President Tito Soto, kay Senator Grace po, Senator Revilla, Senator Angara, Senator Binay, Senator Ontiveros, and of course, our dear Senate President Zubiri. Mr. President, in closing, as the saying goes, we will all grow old one day. Another year has been added to my life today, and all the more we see the need to care for our aging population, especially our beloved senior citizens. Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo, and may God bless us all. At this jump-
Congratulations, Mr. Majority Floor Leader, for that job well done. And just 2 points. My first point, kasama ba dyan si Senator Villar, Senator Legarda, and Senator Tulfo? Or they're exempted from that?
I think because of the word indigent senior
hindi
citizens,
nakasama.
Mr. President.
Waive na.
Winave na po.
Exempt
Mr.
sila.
President. Mr. President, at this juncture, Senator Grace po would like to manifest on the passage of this very important measure. I move that she be recognized, Mr. President.
Our distinguished colleague, Senator Grace Po, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Isang dekada na mula nung mapasa natin ang Republic Act number 9994 o ang Extended Senior Citizens Act of 2010. At isang dekada na ring pinagkakasya ng mga senior citizens ang 500 pesos buwan ng pensyon, bagamat ang presyo ng mga pangunahing bilihin ay nagtaasan na. But with the passage of Republic Act number 11916, the measure seeking to increase the social pension of indigent senior citizens to not less than 1,000, we are now affording our lolos and lolas the opportunity to receive better health and life care that they truly deserve. Aside from a higher pension, an important aspect of this law is its adaptive character, which allows for an adjustment of the social pension if necessary every 2 years, subject to review and consultation and taking into account the prevailing consumer price index. As principal author of the measure, I thank my colleagues for supporting this important and long overdue legislation and for the hard work of our majority leader for sponsoring and defending this bill. Akala namin hindi ito makakalusot. Kaya talagang birthday gift ito sa kanya at sa ating mga nakakatanda. But this would not have been possible if not for the steadfast commitment and leadership of Senator Villanueva, his chairmanship of the Committee on Social Justice, Welfare, and Rural Development last Congress. I suppose this would be one meaningful birthday celebration for our dear Majority Leader. We likewise extend our gratitude to President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. for recognizing and acting on the needs of our senior citizens. Lahat po tayo tatanda. Ito ay kabayaran din sa pag-aaruga at pag-alaga na binigay sa atin ng ating mga magulang, lolo at lola. Any investment we make on our elderly today will benefit us in the future. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you to our distinguished colleague, Senator Grace Po. Senator Pia Cayetano of Taguig Pateros is recognized.
Mr. President, just a very short manifestation to congratulate our colleagues for getting that, passing that bill and it becoming a law. I just like to put on record, because so much of the work that we do is a long journey, it's a step-by-step process, and that process began, I don't even remember the year, but Senator Grace said 10 years ago, so probably 10 years ago, that was my law that initially granted 500 pesos. And like anything else where we spend money, and I was just talking to my interns before coming down to session, it's so difficult for government agencies and for DBM for that matter to spend money on anything, right? But sometimes it's even harder to spend money directly for people. So we started with the initial step. 500 wasn't a lot, but the senior citizens were so happy with just 500. But tama naman talaga that our colleagues worked from that and went up. And as Senator Grace said, no, it gives us room to adjust that further. So I'm proud that we are able to do that. But I also want to recognize that sometimes we have to start with baby steps. And so I will take the opportunity to remind everyone of the baby steps we need to take to change even laws that are either archaic or were other past and not consistent with the goals we want to achieve for our country. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. And I'd like to also put on record that these measures were the last batch of measures that we sent to Malacanang. The focus in the last few days was about the vetoing of 5 measures. But maybe we failed to see all the other measures that were not vetoed. That's why I instructed earlier this afternoon with my meeting with the Secretariat to ready the list of our bills that were passed and lapsed into law, so that we can submit this also to the media, so that the focus is not on the 5 vetoed bills, but rather the measures such as this that we had passed that really are going to be a big help to our senior citizens. So we instruct the Secretariat to come up with that list and provide the media as well. Thank you, Majority Floor Leader.
thank you.
Congratulations again.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me just put on record also our sincerest thanks and appreciation of the Republic Act number 9994, or the Expanded Senior Citizens Act of 2010, authored by Senator Pia. And as mentioned a while ago, Mr. President, it's been a while, and if you look at the data, the consumer prices have gone up by around 38% since, from 2010 to 2021. This is based on the Consumer Price Index. And so this is really very timely and a gift for our indigent senior citizens. And we'd also like to put on record our sincerest thanks to Senator Laila De Lima, who also gave these representations opportunity to be part of the subcommittee, to head the subcommittee, so that we'll be able to hear it and sponsor it on the floor. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
President.
We take note of the manifestation. Senator Risa?
Yeah, Senator Risa, Mr. President.
Salamat po, Mr. President. And maraming salamat sa ating Majority Leader, our birthday boy, for the acknowledgement made towards former Senator Leila De Lima. I'd just like to express verbally, Mr. President, what the Minority Leader and I have already put in the form of a resolution, that we have called on the Secretary of Justice to cause the withdrawal of the charges against former Senator Leila and effect her liberty. I look forward to at least another colleague who said na lalagdaan din nila yung aming resolution bilang co-author, and invite all our other colleagues from the majority and from the independent bloc to consider also joining the Minority Leader and me in that resolution for a former colleague. Salamat po muli, Majority Leader. Salamat po, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we also have another happy bill that has lapsed into law, Mr. President, and our dear Senator from Cavite, Senator Bong Revilla, would also like to manifest, Mr. President, and report to the body.
Thank you,
Senator
Mr. President. I just
Revilla
want to
is
congratulate our good friend, Senator Villanueva, for the Republic Act 11916. Ito'y pumasa na at maligayang ating mga senior citizen, talagang nangangailangan ng tulong. Ito'y talagang higit na kanilang inaasahan. And of course, ito namang ating Republic Act 11909 na ginawa ng panghabang buhay, ang validity ng birth certificate, marriage certificate at death certificate ay naipasa na rin at batas na rin. And I congratulate everyone, yung lahat ng mga kasama natin na sumuporta sa batas na ito. Thank you very much. At yung mga kababayan natin na talaga namang pinapahirapan pabalik-balik na makapag-renew ng itong birth certificate na ito, mga talagang at least hindi na sila mahihirapan ngayon. That's all, Mr. President, at we thank the President at napirma na itong batas na ito. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator Bong Revilla. Congratulations. I remember attending his hearings, Mr. President, in this particular measure, and he worked very hard for the passage of this measure. Thank you.
Maybe just for the record also, I'd like to read the 11 Senate bills that were lapsed into law. Just a reminder to all those who worked really hard for this in the last Congress. The requisites for conversion of a municipality in a component city, I remember Senator Lacson was pushing for this. It's already lapsed into law as Republic Act number 11683. The Electric Vehicles and Charging Stations Act of Senator Recto, Senator Sherwin, and myself, and several other senators, lapsed into law, Republic Act number 11697. The Vintage Vehicle Regulation Act, Republic Act 11698. The Catanduanes as an Abaca, capital of the Philippines, of Ma'am Cynthia, has also lapsed into law. The Egg Basket Act of Senator Villar is also lapsed into law, Republic Act number 11707. The amendments to the PDIC Charter that was sponsored, I believe, by Senator Sani Angara and I think Senator Grace Poe, also as Chairman of Banks. This is Republic Act 11840, lapsed into law. Expanded Solo Parents Welfare Act of 2020, another happy bill, was also lapsed into law, Republic Act number 11861. The National Baptist Day Act, which is a Senate measure as well, was lapsed into law as Republic Act 11897. Extended Producers Responsibility Act of Senator Villar was lapsed into law, Republic Act 11898. And the Second Congressional Commission on Education, or EDCOM, which was supported by Senator Gatchalian and sponsored by Senator Gatchalian, lapsed into law as Republic Act 11899. And the Agriculture, Fisheries, Rural Development Financing Enhancement Act, also of Senator Villar, had lapsed into law, Republic Act 11901. And several hundred local bills, Your Honors. The lists are with the Secretariat, and we can provide you with the copies of all the local bills. So, please proceed. Yes, we recognize Senator Coco and our Minority Floor Leader, and after which Senator Cayetano.
You forgot to mention another bill, which we can probably call also a happy bill. Collaboration between Pimentel and Marcos, Mr. President.
Yes.
This is now Republic Act number 11904, which is the promotion of our creatives industry.
That's right, but wala dito, ma'am.
Ang aming,
Under House Bill siya. Okay, we have a
Yes.
separate list here.
yes, we worked
Yes.
on this. And as I stated in my sponsorship speech, it's about time that we place our bets on the creative industry to bring us to more economic progress, preserve our culture, make known better to the rest of the world the talent and the mark of the Filipino. So thank you for the support, Mr. President. We passed that here, and
Yes,
we also
congratulations.
we thank
Congratulations.
the President himself also for allowing this to become law. Thank you.
Congratulations to our chairman of the Committee on Trade and Commerce at the time, Senator, now our distinguished Minority Floor Leader, Senator Coco Pimentel, and Senator Amy Marcos as well for sponsoring the measure. Senator Pia? Yes.
Mr. President, I just want to put on record, and I believe Senator Coco, as the chairman of the Committee on Trade, will recall, I was the first one who started bugging him to pass that creative industries bill. So I just want to place that on record because I am also a big supporter, and our friend, our common friend, Congressman Toff de Venecia was the one urging us to pass that. The second point I want to raise, I want to commend the Senate President for not including in his happy bills the vape law, because it is not a happy bill, and I take that as support from the presiding officer that there is no way we can call that a happy bill unless the intention is to confuse the public about the deregulation and commend the presiding officer when commendation is due. Thank you.
Thank you. I purposely omitted that, ma'am,
Thank you.
so that I would not offend you, ma'am. And of course, all those that were anti-vape. We also like to also put on record that the Convention Center in Cagayan de Oro, that was named after the distinguished former Minority Floor Leader, the father of our Minority Floor Leader now, also lapsed into law, Republic Act 11845, the Acanilo Pimentel Jr. International Convention Center, which, by the way, that convention center was started by your father, the Minority Leader's father, for a while back. So I'm so happy that Senate President, former Minority Floor Leader, and he was our leader in the Mindanao bloc for many, many years. and many others. So the lists are here, ladies and gentlemen. I would suggest, Majority Floor Leader, maybe you can come up with a list to give to the media, so that the focus are
Yes.
these hundreds of bills that were actually lapsed into law, and not only the few that were vetoed.
Yes, and we thank and appreciate the sensitivity also, Mr. President, of our counterparts in the executive. Mr. President, Senator Bato de la Rosa would like to make a manifestation. I move that he be recognized.
Our distinguished gentleman, former Chief of Police of the Republic of the Philippines, Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa is recognized.
Mr. President, you just said a while ago that basahin na lang ng ating majority leader yung mga nag-lapse into law, but I cannot help but inform you that another happy bill that lapsed into law was RA number 11917, or the Private Security Services Industry
right.
Act.
Yes, correct.
Pinaghirapan namin ni Senator Drilon yan, Mr. President.
Oo, that is correct. That is where you learned you earned your baptism of fire, if I can recall, Your Honor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President.
Congratulations for that happy bill.
Mr. President,
Majority Leader.
our Senate President pro tempore would like to also make a manifestation. I move that she be recognized.
May we recognize the distinguished lady senator from Antique and the Republic of the Philippines, Senator Lauren Legarda. Ma'am?
Thank you, Mr. President. I was given the information that in 2010, this representation was the principal author of Republic Act 9994, which is the Expanded Senior Citizens Act. And it states that this Expanded Senior Citizens Act corrects the flaw of the previous Senior Citizens Act that only gave senior citizens an 8% discount on the value of the item or services purchased. And this Expanded Senior Citizens Act would also give indigent seniors and non-pensioners free medical insurance and disability assistance. I therefore would like to thank the members of this chamber who further amended the already amended and expanded Senior Citizens of 2010. And I recall I was on my second term then, and now on my fourth term, receiving the information of the passage of the further expanded and amended Senior Citizens Act. I'm also grateful, Mr. President, Your Honor, to the members of this chamber for acting on the Creative Industries Act. This representation was a member of the AKIB, the group of congressmen when I was a member of the House of Representatives from 2019 till till June 30th, 2022. The AKIB is a culture block of the House of Representatives, and we're grateful to the Minority Leader, Senator Coco Pimentel, for shepherding the passage of the Creative Industries law, which took quite a while to enact. And we realize that the pandemic has shown that those who receive income from arts, culture, the creative industries, which includes a lot of micro enterprises and even job orders, really need all the help that we can. And so, having said that, the passage of this measure is just one step to be able to help millions of creative people and their families, but the enactment into law is the first step towards finding the resources to be able to help them. Allow me also to state on record, Mr. President, that while we are grateful and we are happy that the Senior Citizens Act was further expanded and amended, I discovered, because I've always been doing national legislation, but when I became a representative, I discovered that senior citizens, at least in my district, the lone district of the province of Antique, had backlogs from the distribution of their pensions then. And so I had to coordinate as congressman with the DSWD so that the pensions could be updated. I am informed by our majority leader, our birthday celebrant today, that the funds and the database will be transferred from the DSWD to the newly created Commission on Senior Citizens. I hope, first, that the DSWD is able to update and cleanse not just the files, but the actual pensions up to 2022 July, and second, that in the transfer of jurisdiction of the payment, that our senior citizens, while anticipating the 1,000 a month pension, would not wait too long because of the transfer of office and database. I say that, Mr. President, and I hope this can be converted into a resolution for the appropriate committee so that we can ask the updated delivery of pensions, social pensions of all senior citizens in all provinces all over the country. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Maybe that can be converted into a resolution, ma'am, and you can file it with Committee on Rules so we can act on it as soon as possible.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Ligarda, our Senate President pro tempore. Mr. President, at this juncture, I move that we dispense with the reading of the Journal of the Fourth Session, Monday, August 1, 2022, and consider the same as approved. So moved.
There being no objection to the motion of the Majority Leader, the motion is approved.
Mr. President, I move that we proceed with the reference of business.
Please proceed.
Bills on first reading. Senate Number 201, amending RA 7941, otherwise known as the Party List System Act. Senator De La Rosa.
Referred to the Committee on Electoral Reforms and People's Participation.
202, strengthening the drug abuse prevention, treatment, and rehabilitation, amending for the purpose RA 9165, and appropriating funds therefore by Senator De La Rosa.
Referred to the Committees on Public Order, Health, and Finance.
203, an act institutionalizing the anti-drug abuse councils in every local government unit and for other purposes by Senator De La Rosa.
Referred to Committees on Public Order and Finance,
204, providing for the revitalization
as well as local government.
204, providing for the revitalization and capability enhancement of the Philippine National Police, appropriating funds and for other purposes, Senator De La Rosa.
Referred to the Committees on Public Order, Local Government, Ways and Means, and Finance.
205, repealing RA 10912, otherwise known as the Continuing Professional Development Act of 2016, Senator De La Rosa.
Referred to the Committee on Civil Service and Government Reorganization.
206, providing direct financial assistance to Filipino farmers, establishing for the purpose the Filipino Farmers Financial Assistance Program, providing funds therefore and for other purposes, Senator De La Rosa.
Referred to the Committees on Social Justice, Agriculture, and Finance.
207, establishing a special defense economic zone inside the Government Arsenal Defense Industrial Estate located in Camp General Antonio Luna, Lamao, Municipality of Limay, Province of Bataan, creating for this purpose the Special Defense Economic Zone Authority, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes, Senator De La Rosa.
Referred to the Committees on Economic Affairs, National Defense, Ways and Means, and Finance.
208, penalizing the act of wage theft by amending for this purpose Articles 87 and 116 of PD 442, the Labor Code of the Philippines, Senator Tulfo.
Referred to the Committees on Labor and Employment.
209, modifying the prescriptive period of money claims arising out of employer-employee relations, amending for the purpose Article 306 of PD 442, as amended, otherwise known as the Labor Code of the Philippines, Senator Tulfo.
Referred to the Committees on Labor and Employment.
210, providing poor job applicants a 20% discount in the payment of fees and charge for certain certificates and clearances issued by government agencies, Senator Tulfo.
Referred to the Committees on Labor and Employment, Social Justice and Welfare and Rural Development.
211, amending RA 9262, or the Anti-Violence Against Women and Children Act of 2004, expanding the scope of the protection to all forms of domestic violence regardless of sexual orientation, providing protective measures, prescribing the same penalties therefore, and for other purposes, Senator Tulfo.
Referred to the Committees on Women and Children, Family Relations, and Finance.
212, ensuring the fundamental equality of men and women on laws relating to crimes against chastity, amending for the purpose Article 333 and repealing Article 334 of Act 3815, otherwise known as the Revised Penal Code, and for other purposes, Senator Tulfo.
Referred to the Committees on Women, Children, Family Relations, and Justice and Human Rights.
213, amending certain provisions of EO 209 as amended in order to define and introduce divorce and for other purposes, Senator Tulfo.
Referred to the Committee on Women and Children, Family Relations, and Gender Equality.
For other purposes, Senator Tulfo.
Referred to the Committees on Justice and Finance.
215, redefining the crime of illegal recruitment committed by a syndicate, amending for the purpose Article 38 of PD 442, the Labor Code of the Philippines as amended, and Section 6 of RA 10022, otherwise known as the Migrant Workers Act as amended by Senator Tulfo.
Referred to Committees on Labor, Employment, and Foreign Relations.
216, instituting the Magna Carta of Filipino Seafarers by Senator Tulfo.
Referred to Committees on Labor and Employment and Foreign Relations.
217, removing the public offering requirement of generation companies, amending for the purpose Section 43T of RA 9136, the Electric Power Industry Reform Act of 2001, Senator Tulfo.
Referred to Committees on Energy and Public Services.
218, providing for bicycle rides, creation of local bikeways, office, establishing infrastructure in relation thereto and for other purposes by Senator Villar M.
Referred to Committees on Public Services, Public Works, and Finance.
Two.
Before we continue, Majority Leader, would we, Majority Leader? Yeah. Majority Leader. Tackled some bills of Senator Tulfo, and some of them are on OFW matters, but we had referred them to the Committee on Labor. May we just assure our distinguished colleague that once the creation of the Committee on Migrant Workers, we can refer them to the proper committee. Is that correct, Mr. President?
That is exactly correct, Mr. President, and we have made representations to Senators Rafi Tulfo and Senator Jinggoy Estrada, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Majority Leader.
Mr. President, may I move for a minute suspension?
Okay, so session suspended. Personal
And
collective
we
privilege.
continue with the additional reference of business later. And also, again, to remind some of our colleagues to submit the list of members of their respective committees because we intend to elect the membership of our committees, Mr. President. Mr. President, with the permission of the body, we take this privileged speech up. I ask that we recognize, Mr. President, the distinguished lady from Taguig and Pateros, Senator Pia Cayetano, to deliver her speech. So move, Mr. President.
Yes, the lady senator from the city of hereby recognized, Senator Pia Cayetano.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I rise on a matter of personal and collective privilege. For almost 20 years, I've delivered a breastfeeding speech in August. It is personal to me as a breastfeeding mom, and it is a policy issue I've been advocating for years. But, Mr. President, much has changed over the years. We've passed laws that promoted breastfeeding and raised awareness. Social media has also helped the younger generation of mothers and fathers proceed with breastfeeding and allow it to be more acceptable in the sense that many mothers would tend to be embarrassed to be breastfeeding outside the confines of their home. But I've also noticed, Mr. President, that there is a younger generation of fathers here in the Senate, including the Senate President, who are now role models of being supportive fathers and husbands. And I'd like to commend every single one of you. And there's a serious reason for that. May I just say that the gentleman sitting beside me, no other than Senator Bato, is always the first to raise his hand when I ask for volunteers of who brings your children to the doctor. It's Senator Bato. Who is a supportive breastfeeding father? It's Senator Bato. But I know this, Mr. President, and I ask our colleagues to bear with me. When I was a new senator, I was in my 30s, a lot of gentlemen in the Senate laughed when I talked about breastfeeding. And it is not a laughing matter. Thank you, Senator Jinggoy. It is not a laughing matter, but I had experienced that, and I was offended, but I was too young to speak up in a way to show that I was offended, but it doesn't mean that I wasn't. So I proceeded with my job, And I am just so happy that I now work with whether younger or older gentlemen in the Senate. And I'd like to point out, and I will as we go along, the father of the minority floor leader was my seatmate at one point, and was very supportive because he always had a way of seeing my discomfort in times like that. And later on, I'll proceed with the history, no? Because I think it's very important that we remember where we came from and where we are now, because we have achieved a lot. So, why does breastfeeding need to be discussed on the Senate floor? Is it a subject of legislation? Yes, it is. And I'll get to that in a while. But considering that it is the best way to nourish an infant, and it is their natural immunization, more so should it be discussed because there are policy issues involved. I would like to share my personal breastfeeding journey, and I hope that through my own experience, I can illustrate the challenges that a mother goes through just to breastfeed her baby, which should be the most natural thing in the world. So when I was pregnant, Mr. President, I decided that I should buy my own books because I did not grow up learning about it in school. Yes, we had science and health education, but no one talked about the benefits of breastfeeding. Thankfully, I saw my mom breastfeed my brothers, but other than knowing that for a fact and having a general idea that it was good for infants, I didn't know anything else. So I bought books and books and books. Interestingly, Mr. President, the doctors did not tell me to breastfeed. My OB actually said to me, it's up to me, pwedeng yes, pwedeng no. She's very nice, very senior, but she did not in any way tell me that there are so many benefits to it. It may be difficult, but it would be good if I breastfeed. Walang ganon, Mr. President. My pediatrician naman was very supportive. So, I gave birth and I breastfed on day 1, and I breastfed throughout my entire 60-day maternity leave. As a runner, I was very, I had no guidance. I did not know how I could continue running while breastfeeding an infant. And wala pang cellphone noon, Mr. President. So what I would do is I would breastfeed and then run for only 30 minutes because my baby might get hungry while I'm still out running, and my mom would go crazy because we did not have infant formula in the house. I specifically did not purchase infant formula with the intention of sticking to my plan to breastfeed. So I did this on my own. Marami dun, Mr. President, kapa-kapa lang. Meanwhile, I lived in Taguig with my brother Alan. It was a 2-bedroom house, and my mom pretty much moved into Alan's room and was his roommate during the entire time of my maternity leave and a few months after to help me take care of my baby because I was fully breastfeeding. So habang nag-aaral si Alan, ang mami ko, pinapatulog niya yung baby ko at ibibigay sa akin pag umiyak na dahil ako naman ang magpapakain. So after 60 days, I went back to work, and I was so blessed to work for a law office, Castillo, Lamantan, and Pantaleon law offices, where they were very supportive, considering that I was the first associate and probably the first employee to make a career out of breastfeeding while working. So how did that work? Well, Mr. President, I took phone calls on speakerphone while manually using a manual pump. Wala pa akong electric pump at that time. Locked my door. I was blessed enough to have my own room. Made sure that the curtains were closed so that no one could see me, and alert my secretary that if my door is locked and my curtains are down, no one can come in but I can take phone calls. And then I proceeded to put the bottle of freshly pumped milk in the freezer of the common freezer. But then, shortly after, nangamoy ulam yung breast milk na ibibigay ko sa baby ko. So after that, I decided to bring my own, ano ba tawag doon? Cooler. I brought my own cooler. So that was my life for a few months, into actually a whole year. I proudly breastfed my 2 daughters actually for a whole year. After my second daughter, I had a baby who was born with multiple disabilities, and he had a cleft lip, but I also breastfed him. I breastfed him I pumped my milk, and it was given to him through a tube that went straight down to his stomach because my son could not digest milk or anything else. So if anyone went through the difficulties of breastfeeding, and I'm sure a lot of mothers would have other stories to tell, but I had my own, which I wanted to spread into the record, because this is what encouraged me to make legislation that would help mothers breastfeed for as long as they wanted to. So quick history, when I became a senator, there was already EO 51. This is known as the Philippine Milk Code. And what it does is it regulates the marketing of infant milk formula. I can leave it at that, but I would like to share the knowledge I learned in my first year in the Senate. This is so critical because, dear colleagues, what happened in many hospitals, both government and private, is that infant formula companies would even donate their milk to the hospitals for the newborns and interfere with what should have been a natural breastfeeding process. So for the information of those who are not familiar with breastfeeding supply is based on supply and demand. The more the mother breastfeeds, the more milk she will produce. So pag binigyan mo ng infant formula yan, mababawasan yung pagbigay niya ng sariling gatas niya dahil may ibang napapagkunan, and unti-unting mawawala ang kanyang breast milk supply. So that is why kailangan ma-regulate ang marketing of infant formula. The other thing is, dear colleagues, and I hope when you go home tonight, tomorrow you look around, you'll see a lot of advertisements of brands that claim na tatalino ang baby nila dun sa gatas na yon. Hindi po totoo yun. Ang totoo, tatalino yung baby nyo dun sa gatas ng ina. Yun ang pinaka-effective. Yun talaga yun. So we also want to ensure that the marketing is also goes through the highest standard. I can go on about this, but I have other things to talk about, so I'll move on at this point, Mr. President. When I became a senator in 2004, there was also 1992 law, RA number 7600, or the Rooming In and Breastfeeding Act, which was adopted no less than my idol, the late Senator Ed Angara. I was quite surprised because I expected maybe somebody like Senator Flavier, but when I learned that it was Senator Angara who passed it was very heartening for me that a male senator was actually the one who passed it. And having already given birth, I realized how important this is. This law basically says that in every hospital, immediately upon birth, kailangan itabi yung baby sa mommy para agad-agad maka-breastfeed ka agad ang nanay. So this law was really a game changer, Your Honor. And I also learned I'd say parliamentary procedures through the late senator, because my bill was actually called by another name, and he very statesman-likely guided me in the amendments of this law, of my bill, so that it would be actually simply an amendment to the existing RA 7600, which he authored, instead of me creating something totally new, and not really disregarding, but he just helped me make this bill flow better, a very important lesson as a new senator. So that is the Breastfeeding Promotion Act that I'm already talking about, which basically provided new features to the Rooming In Act. And under the Breastfeeding Promotion Act, I would say the critical features here are the setting up of lactation centers in all public places and in private and government offices. Again, this was, and I believe is still, a game changer. When you look around, and for those of you for the gentlemen here with young wives, they can find a lactation or breastfeeding room in the malls. You can now find it in the airport. You can even find it in terminals for ferries. I actually saw a beautiful one in a Bohol terminal years ago. So this makes it easier for mothers to continue breastfeeding. I have had the experience of having to lock myself in a in a restroom that had its own door, and about 20 people bang on the door to tell me to leave, to get out of the room because I was breastfeeding. And I understand, no, they need to use the toilet, but during those days there were no breastfeeding rooms, Your Honor. So this is the kind of change that makes lives better for breastfeeding moms. In addition, in the workplace, this law also provided for lactation breaks. It's basically 40 minutes in addition to your usual meal breaks. I would have wanted more. I actually pushed for more, but we tried to strike a balance with industry that obviously was hesitant, no, to give more breaks to their staff. But now it is a right of every breastfeeding mother to use an additional 40 minutes to pump her milk and take it home to her baby. And at this point, I would like to point out that charity starts at home, or maybe that's not the right phrase. We need to implement our laws in our own home. So the Senate actually has its own lactation room. We put this up, I think, around 2014, 2015. Tama ba? Anyway, I'm not sure of the date, but it's on the 5th floor, and I'd like to include here my I don't think it has to be a motion, but a request that the GAD office places posters, as they did before, in the entrance to the Senate, so that resource persons or other persons of business in the Senate know that they can use that room. I've actually had the opportunity to be thanked by a resource person, this was pre-COVID, who was so happy that to sit in a 6-hour hearing, there was a lactation room that she could go to in the Senate. And when I was a member of the House, I also worked with the Secretariat to put up a lactation room, and this was continued by Senator Alan Cayetano when he was Speaker of the House, in the House. Just a quick note, I want to show how important it is that is actually the House of Representatives lactation room in the House. It's very important for these kind of laws to be supported and implemented on the ground. And I'm very happy to hear other examples, but the example I will give, of course, is Taguig. In Taguig City, the Taguig Hospital has actually received, way back in 2013, so almost 10 years ago, they have received recognition as a mother and baby friendly hospital, and there is a 10-point requirement to be able to do that. I'm sure there are others. I'm just aware with the one on Taguig, and I hope DOH will make this public so that we can also acknowledge the other hospitals that are compliant. And for those that are not, may I call on the DOH to work closely with the city health officials of various cities and provinces to bring them up to speed. The success of breastfeeding will really depend on the people who are surrounding the mother, who can continue to encourage her to breastfeed. It is actually the cheapest way to nourish a baby, and it is also their first immunization against various kinds of ailment. In fact, the leading cause of death for infant mortality, if I'm not mistaken, is waterborne diseases, which are also directly related to bottle feeding. Kasi pag hinuhugasan yung bote at hindi tama yung paghugas, doon nagkakaroon ng waterborne diseases. Samantalang pag nag-breastfeed, there is no contamination, there's nothing to wash. It is just simply safer for babies. And I also wanted to point out that in Taguig City, and I've also launched similar programs in Cebu and other parts of the country, there is a human milk bank. So in 2015, Taguig City established its human milk bank, which screens and then pasteurized donors' milk to families whose mother cannot make milk available to their baby. So this is a big help for babies whose mother actually died or are sick or serious, are still recuperating. and also for babies who are left. We've already covered that in another law with Senator Grace and Senator Risa. But that fact is a part of babies who are left behind and in need of breast milk. So again, as an example, in Taguig City, 376 bottles of milk that were pumped by Taguig women were donated to infants in need after the Taal volcano erupted. And even during the pandemic, there were also donated breast milk to infants in need during the pandemic. I'd like to emphasize, since I mentioned the pandemic, that the evidence shows that according to WHO, it has not detected in the breast milk of any mother with confirmed or suspected COVID-19. They have not detected COVID-19. And it seems to be unlikely that COVID-19 would be transmitted through breastfeeding. So, as we have known, but of course it's always good to have the evidence, breastfeeding even during the time of COVID is still very much recommended. So, Mr. President, I think I will end there. I just want to emphasize that I share my personal journey and the history of breast. Sorry, I knew I forgot something. There are a number of bills and laws. My team will flash it right now that also support breastfeeding. But what I want to emphasize is the 105-day expanded maternity leave law. This is very crucial because from my own experience and then from the experience of the women staff who worked with me, I really saw with my own eyes that 60 days is not enough to leave your baby and to go back to work, especially if you're continuing to breastfeed. I really had a lot of problem going back to work. That included breast engorgement, very, very painful, fever, and it was just very difficult. So with 105 days, we give the mother an additional 45 days to continue breastfeeding. And when the mother goes back to work, her breast milk supply is usually definitely much more established, and it's easier for her to continue breastfeeding. So I end my privileged speech on this note, and I thank the members of the Senate for the support that I have seen growing for breastfeeding throughout the years. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. And I'd like to congratulate the senator from Taguig and Pateros for a very enlightening speech, reminding us of our duties as parents, as fathers and mothers. At the same time, she's absolutely correct. I think this generation is more involved with how we take care of our children, and we thank her for delivering that speech. We'd like, Majority Leader, I'd just like to put on record also, I see in the gallery, Ma'am Samira Guto, also NGO and fellow Mindanaoan. We acknowledge, sir. Okay. My
Thank you,
apologies.
Mr. President. First, at this juncture, Mr. President, the distinguished gentleman from Taguig and Patero, Senator Alan Peter Cayetano, would like to ask some questions. Mr. President, I move that he be recognized.
Yes, we'd like to recognize the distinguished colleague from Taguig and Patero, Senator Alan Peter Cayetano.
Thank you, Mr. President, and again, a blessed happy birthday to our Majority Leader. And I'd like to ask the lady from Taguig and Pateros if she would allow me to have one or two comments and if she'll yield to one or two questions, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. President, of course.
Well, Mr. President, of course, we congratulate her not only for bringing up this issue, but for her being very, very consistent. To use a word, napakakulit po ni Senator Pia pagdating po sa mga fundamentals at basic sa health na kung saan ito naman ang kailangan talaga. No? Kumbaga sa bahay, masarap talaga gawin yung kusina, masarap talaga na maganda kwarto mo, yung sala, kung mahilig ka sa bisita, pero ang pundasyon ang isa sa pinaka-importante. No? So I just like to ask her, first of all, what will be, if ever, the role of having primary health centers or barangay health centers in connection, no, with the prenatal healthcare, and also later on after of course giving birth, and after giving birth yung breastfeeding. What is the role of the barangay health centers?
Mr. President, the barangay health centers are critical for the promotion of breastfeeding in the barangays. Like I said, we can create policies, but if this is not implemented in the barangay levels, then sadly our policies will just be discussion points. Part of my advocacy is to go out in the barangays, and I've been to barangays in the mountains, I've been through barangays by the seaside, wherein I bring a doctor, Dr. Vivian, who's with my staff, who educate further the barangay health workers. In fairness, a lot of them have sufficient knowledge, but we really engage them some more in really sharing examples. And like I said, when it comes to like infant formula, yung minsan matutuwa kasi may nag-donate, and then hindi nila nare-realize na pag naumpisahan ng nanay yan, mawawala na yung breast milk supply niya. So we share this. So to educate and to empower the barangay health workers, and of course the barangay health center itself is critical for the success of breastfeeding and for basic health care in the entire country.
Sir President, I appreciate very much that she used the word critical, because just to relate to the President's SONA, wherein President Marcos emphasized the need for specialty or specialized hospitals all around the country, and which I cannot help but support, because since 2015, this has been part of the bills that I've been filing na magkaroon sa Northern and Southern Luzon, sa Visayas, Mindanao ng Lung Center, Orthopedic, Children's Center, a Cancer Research Institute, a Kidney and Transplant Institute, etc. And I know everyone here supports that. But I'd like to relate it vis-a-vis the fundamentals or the foundation of our healthcare system, no? So Senator Pia used the word critical, and let me read this while she's getting back to the podium. No? The WHO says about primary health care, no? All people everywhere deserve the right care right in their community. This is the fundamental premise of primary health care. Primary health care addresses the majority of a person's health need throughout their lifetime. This includes physical, mental, and social well-being, and it's people-centered rather than disease-centered. PHC is a whole-of-society approach that includes health promotion, disease prevention, treatment, rehabilitation, and palliative care. A primary health care approach includes three components: meeting people's needs throughout their lives, addressing the broader determinants of health through multisectoral policy and action, and third, empowering individuals, families, and their community to take charge of their health. So would the lady agree that it would be very difficult for a person to meet their health needs, which is the first approach; second, to address the broader determinants of health through multisectoral policy; and third, to empower them if there is no barangay health center or no primary health center in their barangay?
Yes, of course, Mr. President, because the most basic health care should be delivered immediately to the people and be accessible to them. Kaya nga yung pinaka-problema natin is because we are a country of 7,000 plus islands, and our topography is really different, whether you're in the north, the south. It has been a problem to ensure that healthcare is easily accessible to our people. So definitely the answer is it should be accessible in every community, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Pia, for that, because I'd like to mention that 47.2% of our barangays, or 18,766 of the barangays in the Philippines, do not have barangay health centers. So although I agree that we build these hospitals all around the country, I think it is essential that the DOH, once they submit the 2023 budget, come out with a plan, whether it's a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, a 2-year plan, a 6-year plan, of how to be able to build not only the physical structure of a barangay health center, but how to staff and fully equip these centers precisely so that we can build a better foundation for our healthcare system and precisely to be able to deliver the services that Senator Pia has been talking about, whether she's talking about prenatal services, whether she's talking about how to take care of our senior citizens, whether she talks about breastfeeding as she is today. These barangay health centers will be the base, no? O ito yung pinaka-bahay sa bawat barangay. Ito po yung pundasyon na kung saan maalagaan ang kalusugan ng ating mga kababayan.
Yes, Mr. President, I totally agree that there should be a very clear plan. I'll address 2 points that His Honor raised, no, to support that. One is on what that plan is vis-a-vis basic health care and tertiary health care. And then the second point I'll address is the need for details on the funding of the barangay health centers or basic health care. So between basic health care and tertiary health care, WHO and any health expert will tell you that we need to support basic health care. But that does not mean, of course, that we will not support tertiary health care. It just cannot take the back seat because it is really an excellent basic health care that will be able to address most of the problems. And then when these problems cannot be addressed, then that's when they will need tertiary health care or more critical care. So sa madaling salita, kumbaga nga sa example na binigay ninyo, kung magandang pundasyon, hindi ka mag-aalala na mangangailangan ng emergency intervention kasi maganda nga ang pundasyon. So the need for the more sophisticated health interventions would be lessened pagka maganda talaga ang basic health care. Now, from what I know, having been very involved in health for the last 18 years of my time in the Senate and in the House, 3 years in the House, 15 in the Senate. In the last few years, I know that DOH has parang categories of, they have categorized the barangays that will be receiving health care funding. So for example, in the barangays that there already is an existing structure, then they don't need to get funding for the structure. They will just get funding for the equipment. And so on and so forth. Dun sa mga walang-wala, zero, di structure muna. Kasi minsan, Mr. President, may sitwasyon na nangyayari na nauuna yung equipment, ni wala pa palang nakatayo. So I think that's what His Honor is leading to when he says na may plano ba and is it a clear-cut plan. So from my experience with DOH last year, meron naman silang categorization na ganon as to whether napopondohan yon in the manner that they want. It depends every year on the budget.
Well, Mr. President, Senator Pia sort of is able to read my mind, but the other point I was leading to is since she became a senator in 2004 and working with her as a member of Congress together with the Senate President in the 11th, 12th, and 13th Congress, Senator Pia has consistently tried to
13th Congress lang ako. Kayo ni Senate
Yes.
President ang nasa 11th and 12th in the House.
But when we were working with you sa 13th,
Yes.
that was where the VAT was rediscussed. And I remember the many debates that you faced wherein you earmarked part of the VAT for health and education. And since then, that has been a consistent effort on your part to make sure that the more funds we have, that some are earmarked for health and education. But the point I wanted to make is that despite all of this earmarking, hindi po nalilesen yung gap dun sa kakulangan ng health center. So dumami na yung mga city hospitals at saka mga district hospitals, which is a good thing. But yung pinaka-basic na yung primary health center ay mukhang naiwanan. And pinakamadali dito, yung lagyan ng pera for infrastructure, pero yung mapagraduate yung doktor, ma-train yung mga nurse, and of course, ma-train yung mga gagamitin ng mga, ma-train yung mga personnel sa gagamitin ng mga equipment. No? But having said that, Mr. President, my last point is also addressed to our...
Actually, before His Honor makes his last point, I'd just like to comment on that what we tried to do, and the birthday boy, Your Honor, will be happy that I mentioned this, another birthday gift from years gone, yung Doktor para sa Bayan. What we tried to do sa Doktor para sa Bayan is not just pass a law that gives scholarships to students who want to be doctors. We work particularly handling, because we handle the budget of the Department of Health and the budget of CHED, we ensured that we identified the public hospitals, the public medical schools that either need expansion or need to get started. Each one of them were identified based on their needs, so that we could really come up with doctors that will be able to be absorbed by those schools. Because it's useless that you have the scholarships and then the schools will say, puno na yung enrollment namin, kulang na yung laboratory namin, kulang na yung classroom namin. So what we have tried to do is to really be holistic in our approach to healthcare, Your Honor. That is something that I am proud of, and that is something that I will always fight for, so that the funding really goes to the end use that we imagine, even though I need to make amendments or reduce or change the fine print. We have to make it clear so that we can really come up with something that is workable, Your Honor.
If I may, Mr. President, just a very short interjection with the indulgence of the distinguished gentleman from Taguig Pateros, Senator Cayetano. When we passed the measure, there are about 10 regions in the country with 0 School of Medicine, Mr. President. Since the passage of the Doktor para sa Bayan law, we have opened at least 7 state college universities offering School of Medicine. And some of our SUC presidents are still here, and there are a lot of applicants as well. And of course, we thank the distinguished lady from Taguig Pateros for really helping and crafting and
Hinimay ko sa madaling salita.
being resourceful, extra resourceful, together with the chairperson of the Committee on Finance, Senator Angara, to make sure, Mr. President, that we'll be able to finance and fund this very important measure. Because, again, even before the passage of the measure, we only have 3 doctors attending to 10,000 Filipinos. The WHO, World Health Organization, is saying we need to have at least 10 doctors to take good care of 10,000 Filipinos. And I know it's still far-fetched from our dream, but it's moving forward. And
Yes.
Again, we thank the distinguished lady from Taguig Pateros, Senator Cayetano, for all her help. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, if I may just complete that story, because it is very critical. It was not sufficient that we worked with the state universities and CHED on this. We also had to work with DOH because, Mr. President, for you to have a med school, you also have to have a nearby hospital where the doctors will intern. So it is not enough to just say na, oh, maglagay kayo sa region ganyan. Maglagay kayo, period. Pag di kayo naglagay, hindi pwedeng ganun, Mr. President, kasi kailangan mo din patayo ng ospital doon. So this has to be really, I have to say, I use my patience here to really find to try to address all the gaps to make this happen. So we still have areas that don't have the medical schools because you need those training hospitals. And you cannot have that training hospital if yung primary healthcare, going back to Senator Alan's concern, kung primary healthcare palang wala, paano ka naman biglang nagkaroon ng tertiary hospital? Paano ka nagkaroon ng training hospital? So I go back, Your Honor, dun sa sinabi kong step by step. And it will happen, pero step by step. But I guess our duty is to make it happen, to make sure that we take those necessary steps in a timely manner.
Mr. President, I'm glad that the Majority Leader and Senator Pia Cayetano argued that way, because my last point is about panghuhula. It's about guesswork. And I I'd like to commend but also put on notice our very industrious and good chairperson on the Committee on Finance, Senator Angara, and of course the Senior Vice Chairperson, Senator Pia, that my line of questioning for the 2023 budget will also be in line with guesswork or panghuhula. Because after 30 years in government and serving with the Senate President since the 11th Congress, maraming beses po na pag tinanong mo, for example, why put this amount for medicine? Hindi nila mabigay yung eksaktong dahilan. So it's more of a guesstimate. It's an estimate, but it's actually a guess. Why do I know that? Because in the city of Taguig since 2010, with our house-to-house survey, we have actual data. So for example, Mr. President, we can tell you at any point in time kung ilan ang buntis sa Taguig. We cannot tell you kung sinong nakabuntis because may privacy issue dyan. Hindi namin tinatanong, pero alam namin kung ilan ang buntis. Bakit? So that we know ilan ang ihahanda na seats para sa buntis Congress, so that we know magkano po ang i-allot for the prenatal and postnatal check-ups, so that we know how to meet the target for the teenage pregnancy, the national objectives of health for teenage pregnancy, etc. No?
Mr.
So-
President, before His Honor continues, may I suggest, alamin nila yung sinong nakabuntis. Kasi kadalasan, babae yung sinisisi kung ba't nabuntis siya. And I know Senator Risa will agree with me on this. Pero a lot of times, kailangan din tanungin yung nakabuntis. And kung marami siyang nabubuntis or paulit-ulit niyang binubuntis yung asawa niya o kung ano man kaano niya yon, baka candidate din siya for vasectomy or education program on family planning, di ba? I'm being very practical about it, no? But that is the reality kasi otherwise nagiging wala tayong magagawa, buntis na yan. Hindi, meron tayong magagawa. Alamin natin kung sino nakabuntis with due respect to the privacy
Yes.
angle.
That's an interesting point that we can go on to later on. But the point I wanted to make has to do with Section 22 of Article 6 of the Philippine Constitution, which says, the heads of the department may, upon their own initiative, with the consent of the President, or upon the request of either house, as the rules of each house shall provide, appear before and be heard by such. So the point that I want to make, Mr. President, is unlike a parliamentary form of government wherein the Prime Minister and all of the ministers are periodically before their colleagues so that they can be questioned, so that they can be held accountable. That is not such the case in the Philippine Congress, except during budget hearings and during confirmation. Problema sa confirmation, that's once, and then hindi mo na babalikan yon unless they're appointed to a different position. Sa budget hearing naman, once a year yan, sabay-sabay lahat. So, the point I wanted to make is this. Kung 40% ng ating barangay ay walang health center, dun pa lang tayo sa physical na, na health center. So, it's so easy to ask the DOH and DPWH kung DPWH ang gagawa, ilan ba ang kaya nyong gawin every year? Kaya nyo bang tapusin yan in 3 years or in 4 years? So whether it's the budget hearing or whether we call them for a question hour, accountable sila. So many of us here stuck our neck out for programs that we believe in. For example, personally ako, yung 10,000 ayuda or 10,000 pag-asa. I have won a Senate seat through God's grace and mercy third time. I did not need to advertise or to have that program, but I believe in it. I believe at this time kailangan yan. And I welcome those na naningil, kaya nga sinubmit ko sa Majority Leader as one of the 5 priority bills, and I thank those who nag-file din ng bill like the Majority Leader or Senator Lauren who said she will co-author, and I will gladly support yung tablet para sa bawat estudyante program. We put that on record because gusto natin na singilin tayo ng tao, no? But remember, we're a legislative body. Unlike the executive, sila yung nag-i-implement. So rather than a generic answer from the Department of Health or from any administration, not necessarily the Marcos administration, that yes, we will address the health care problems. Yes, kalusugan ay importante, no? I would like to see a plan from these departments. So, for example, Mr. President, tayo magkasama ng 11th Congress. 11th Congress, sinasabi na sa atin na yung classroom shortage isosolve nila eh. Pero, decades later, hindi pa rin sure kung ilan ang kakulangan na classroom, inabot na tayo nung pandemic. So yes, there are intangibles and there are issues, for example, how many doctors do we need and are we able to produce such doctors? Mas mahirap na tanong yan. Pero, at the very least, may plano. Kasi kung walang plano, wag po tayong maniwala na importante ang kalusugan sa ating gobyerno o sa administrasyon na to, no? So, in the same manner, Mr. President, that the members of the Commission on Appointments, CA here, will be asking questions, I think it is but fair that during this time of pandemic, high prices, many problems not caused by this administration but caused by external factors or factors beyond our control, but the solutions are not beyond our control. How we react is within our control. And I think that the speeches of the lady from Taguig and Pateros deserve more than a commendation from the colleagues, but deserve a concrete plan coming from this department. So I'll stop there and again thank the lady from Taguig Pateros for allowing me to ask some questions, intervene, but make that point, no, that if maayos yung ating primary healthcare system, kung bawat barangay ay meron pong barangay healthcare system, it won't be a magic formula that suddenly wala tayong problema sa health. But suddenly, these national programs like yung breastfeeding and like yung mga programa natin para sa mga buntis, di ba? Mas madaling bantayan, mas konting panghuhula or guesswork, and even for our good chairman, for Senator Angara, less guesstimates will come his way, will be submitted to him, di ba? So right now, I guess for 2023, parts of the budget will still be guesstimates, but hopefully we'll take a giant step forward in requiring the departments to give the basis and find programs to find the basis for that. And then later on, 2024, 2025, hopefully po, more budgeting based on facts and on data rather than on these estimates. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator P.
My pleasure, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think the chairperson of the Committee on Finance would also like to make a manifestation and join the discussion, Mr. President, as it involves so much work from his committee, Mr. President.
Yes, we'd like to recognize the distinguished colleague, Senator Sani Angara.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to our dearest Majority Leader who has a birthday merienda waiting for us. I'll be brief. I'll be brief with my interjections or responses. And I was going to take the floor even before my good friend and kababata, the former Speaker of the House, Senator Allen, took the floor. And I thank him for his points, very important points. And I totally agree with him that sometimes the best interventions are the simplest ones. And at the barangay level, definitely we need to improve that because these are if you look at the health system of a country like Thailand, for instance, they chose to strengthen, rather than have these elaborate tertiary hospitals, they chose to strengthen their grassroots health system. And it's made a world of difference, I think, in that respect. So I totally agree with you there, and I'll be happy to work with you. Since I became chair of the Committee on Finance in 2019, I never handled the health department, unfortunately. No. But I think I ought to give credit where credit is due. It's been handled alternately by Senator Go and Senator Pia, who just gave us a very relevant speech on breastfeeding. No? So, and to their credit, they have, despite the scarce resources and despite the pandemic, been able to push for a higher health budget, Mr. President. And I give credit to the lady and to Senator Go and to our colleagues and to Senator Joel for the Dr. Para sa Bayan bill, also the former Senate President, Senator Soto. And I wanted to rise to commend the lady from Taguig, because the distinguished lady from Taguig, because from day one of my tenure or term in this institution in 2013, and even before that, I know she has been such a strong advocate for health in so many respects, tackling health problems from different angles, Mr. President. From health financing to sponsoring the tax bills that underlie, like the original sin tax law in 2012, which earmarked was really a sea change in terms of health financing because it brought so much of our resources towards PhilHealth and I'm referring to the sin tax 2012 law co-sponsored by her and Senator Drilon, which earmarked so much funds for healthcare, universal healthcare, and in a way laid the foundation for us to eventually pass universal healthcare and breastfeeding law and tackling it from so many angles, universal healthcare, the budget every year. I just want to commend her and tell her that we truly appreciate the work she and her staff have done in the aspect of health over these years. And as I appreciate as well the insights of her brother, Senator Alan, and we promise to work together. I agree there should be a plan. In fact, I said that during my interview over the weekend with DWIC and DCBB. Yung nasabi ni Senator Alan na may guesstimate, you notice, if you see the difference, because the distinguished lady from Taguig also handles the budgets for higher education and the SUCs. And you notice the budget for the SUCs is itemized. We know how much goes to each SUC. But the budget for HFEP, for health every year, it's a lump sum, 10 billion, 15 billion, 20 billion. At hihingi pa tayo ng listahan. Why don't we finally provide ask them for some rationality, for some reason, for some rhyme and reason, for some, so that those who truly need the resources to go there, we can fund those. I think, and I thank her for opening this discussion. It's a truly important discussion that will benefit the poorest of our countrymen. Thank you, Mr. President. Napahaba, pasensya na po.
Thank you, Senator Angara.
Mr. President,
Yes.
just a very short response. I'm going to mention the ladderized education, which His Honor, the chairman of the Senate Committee on Finance, authored in the House when he was still in the House, and his late father authored in the Senate when I was chairman of the Committee on Education. Why am I mentioning ladderized education? This is so relevant, Mr. President, because I truly believe that this will be the way where we can further empower our health workers throughout their whole career or lifetime. So from being a barangay health worker through the ladderized education, they could study to become a midwife, and ladderized education is not the usual formal schooling. It takes into account their experiences on the ground. And then from midwife, they could become a nurse. From nurse, they could become a doctor or even other allied professions. So I mentioned this because, like I said, it takes years, no? It takes a whole village to put together this master plan. But we have this at our fingertips. And as I know, my brother, Senator Alan, is pushing for barangay health center in every barangay. My bill is a midwife in every barangay. And then Senator Bong Revilla and I are also working on the Philippine Nursing Act, because in other countries, there are nurse practitioners, there are also doctor's assistants who study for about 4 years, around the same time as nurses. So they are really instrumental in strengthening our human health profession, Mr. President. So in due time, I hope we will be able to take up all these bills as a holistic approach to the health issues our country faces. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Pia. I wonder where the majority leader is. Let's, I think the gentleman from Cavite, Senator Bong Revilla, is
Just a
seeking the floor.
short
Yes, you're recognized,
manifestation.
Senator Revilla.
Mr. President, nais ko lamang pong ipahatid ang ating pagsaludo kay Senator Pia for using this August chamber to make us aware of the importance of breastfeeding. The World Health Organization, WHO, and the United Nations Children's Fund, or UNICEF, have advocated for it because of the immense impact it has on the youth. Kaya hinahangaan ko si Senator Pia. In fact, since 2004, Pia, no, every year, tumitindig ka pa ng ating first term. So, saludo talaga ako sa iyo. Just keep it up. Basta't kami nasa likuran mo. Okay? I'm not going to talk about the ano ba yung vasectomy or kung sino yung nakabuntis. Basta importante rito kung paano tayo makakatulong sa mga kabataan.
Salamat. Thank you. Thank you for your kind
Ma'am
words
Pia.
to
Thank
my
you.
batchmate.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Senator Revilla. Thank you, Senator Cayetano.
Referral muna.
Nursing Act.
Yes, Mr. President, with the permission of the body, Mr. President, I move that we refer the privileged speech of Senator Pia Cayetano to the Committee on Health and Demography. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no objection, the motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have a lot of administrative matters before us, Mr. President. At this juncture, Mr. President, pursuant to Rule 10, Section 13, in relation to Section 18 of the Senate Rules, I now move that we proceed with the continuation of the organization of the various standing committees of the Senate by electing the chairperson. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the manifestation of the distinguished majority leader, so moved.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we elect the chairperson of the Committee on Banks, Financial Institutions, and Currencies, no other than Senator Mark Villar. I so move.
There being no objection to the election of Senator Mark Villar as chairman, there being none, the motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we elect the chairperson of the Committee on Civil Service, Government Reorganization, and Professional Regulation, no other than Senator Ramon Bong Revilla. So moved, Mr. President.
There being no objection, on the motion, therefore, Senator Ramon Bong Revilla is hereby elected as chairperson of the said committee.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we elect the chairperson of the Committee on Cooperatives, no other than Senator Amy Marcos. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the election, the new chairman of the Senate Committee on Cooperatives is Senator Amy Marcos, duly elected.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we elect the chairperson of the Committee on Economic Affairs, no other than Senator Grace Poe. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the motion of the majority leader, the new chairperson of the Committee on Economic Affairs is Senator Grace Poe.
Thank you, Mr. President. This juncture, I move that we elect chairperson of the Committee on Electoral Reforms and People's Participation, no other than Senator Amy Marcos. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no member who objects to the motion of the majority floor leader, the new elected chairman of the Senate Electoral Reforms and People's Participation Committee, Senator Amy Marcos.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we elect the chairperson of the Committee on Environment, Natural Resources, and Climate Change, no other than Senator Cynthia Villar. So moved, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the motion of the majority floor leader, the new chairperson of the Committee on Environment, Natural Resources, and Climate Change is elected Senator Cynthia Villar.
Thank you, Mr. President. This juncture, I move that we elect the chairperson of the Public Information and Mass Media, no other than Senator Robin Hood Padilla. So moved, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the motion of the majority floor leader, we elect the chairperson, Senator Robin Padilla, is approved.
Thank you,
As
Mr.
chairman.
President. Mr. President, I move that we elect the chairperson of the Committee on Sports, no other than Senator Bong Go. So moved, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the motion of the majority floor leader, the newly elected chairman of the Committee on Sports, Senator Bongo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we elect the chairperson of the Committee on Tourism, no other than Senator Nancy Binay. So moved, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the motion of the majority floor leader, the newly elected chairperson of the Committee on Tourism is Senator Nancy Binay.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we elect the chairperson of the Committee on Urban Planning, Housing, and Resettlement, no other than Senator J.V. Ejercito. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the motion of the majority floor leader, the newly elected chairperson of the Urban Planning, Housing, and Resettlement, Senator J.V. Ejercito.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, at this juncture, I move that we elect the chairperson of the Committee on Youth, no other than Senator Sani Angara. So move, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the majority floor leader's motion, the newly elected chairperson of the Committee on Youth, Senator Sani Angara.
Some of our members are asking if there's a age limit for the chairperson of the Committee on Youth. Anyway, Mr. President, at this juncture, pursuant to Rule 10, Section 13, in relation to Section 18 of the Senate Rules, I now move that we proceed with the organization of the various standing committees of the Senate by electing, Mr. President, the chairperson, and members. I so move, Mr. President, that we start.
There being no objection to the motion is approved.
Thank
Please
you,
proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, this representation was elected chair of the Committee on Rules, so I now move that we elect as members of the committee the following senators. On the part of the majority, Senator J.V. Ejercito as Vice Chair, Senator Mark Villar as Vice Chair, Senators Sani Angara, Nancy Binay, Sherwin Gatchalian, Grace Poe, and Alan Cayetano for the majority, and Senator Risa Ontiveros for the minority. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the motion of the majority leader, the members are duly elected.
Mr. President, I now move that we elect as members of the Committee on Energy, the following senators. On the part of the majority, Senator Rafi Tulfo as chairperson, and members, Senators Win Gatchalian as vice chair, Senators J.V. Ejercito, Mark Villar, Bato de la Rosa, Bongo, Francis Tolentino, Nancy Binay, Lito Lapid, Francis Escudero, Grace Poe, Sani Angara, Alan Peter Cayetano, and Senator Pia Cayetano for the majority, and Senator Risa Ontiveros on the part of the minority. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the members mentioned by the majority leader, therefore they're duly elected.
Yes, Mr. President. At this juncture, I now move that we elect as members of the Committee on Higher Technical and Vocational Education for the majority, Senators Win Gatchalian and J.V. Ejercito as Vice Chairperson, members, Senators Nancy Binay, Alan Cayetano, Ronald De La Rosa, Rafi Tulfo, Grace Poe, Bong Revilla Jr., Senator Cynthia Villar, Amy Marcos, Pia Cayetano, Jingoy Estrada, and Mark Villar for the majority, and on the part of the minority, Senator Risa Ontiveros. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the motion of the majority floor leader, the members are duly elected.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I now move that we elect as members of the Committee on Agriculture, Food, and Agrarian Reform the following senators. On the part of the majority, Senators Amy Marcos, Bato de la Rosa, and Francis Tolentino as Vice Chairperson. Members, Senators Binay, Pia Cayetano, Escudero, Jingoy Estrada, Win Gatchalian, Bongo, Lito Lapid, Robin Hood Padilla, Ramon Bong Revilla, Rafi Tulfo, and for the minority, Senator Risa Ontiveros. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the motion of the majority floor leader, the members are duly elected.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I now move that we elect as members of the Committee on Health and Demography. Members of the committee are the following senators, Mr. President. On the part of the majority, Senators Marcos, De La Rosa, and Tolentino as Vice Chairperson. Members, Senators Binay, Pia Cayetano, Escudero, Jingoy Estrada, Win Gatchalian, Go, Lapid, Padilla, Revilla, and Tulfo, and for the minority, Senator Risa Ontiveros. I so move, Mr. President.
This is for which committee again?
Sorry, Mr. President.
Yeah, I think mali ata.
Yes, Mr. President.
Committee
Sorry.
on Health to, di ba? This Committee on Health.
Yes,
Yeah.
Mr. President. For Committee on Health, Mr. President, I'm
So
sorry.
we disregard the first motion.
Thank
Yes,
you, Mr. President. Aging, Mr. President. Mr. President.
It's your birthday. It's okay
and,
to make mistakes today.
I've yet to take my lunch, Mr. President. It's really my birthday. Pasensya na po. Mr. President, on the part of the majority, it's Senators Pia Cayetano and J.V. Ejercito as Vice Chairperson. Members, Senators Binay, Cynthia Villar, Poe, Padilla, Lapid, Revilla Jr., and Tulfo, and on the part of the minority, Senator Risa Ontiveros. So move, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the motion of the majority floor leader, all these members are duly elected.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I now move that we elect as members of the Committee on Government, Corporation, and Public Enterprises, Members of the majority, Senator Villanueva as Vice Chair, Senator Go, Lapid, De La Rosa, Jinggoy Estrada, Pia Cayetano, and Robin Hood Padilla on the part of the majority, and on the part of the minority, Senator Risa Hontiveros. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no members objecting to the motion of the majority floor leader, all members are duly elected.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I now move that we elect as members of the Committee on Women, Children, Family Relations, and Gender Equality the following members on the part of the majority: Senator Nancy Binay as Vice Chair, and members Senators Pia Cayetano, Cynthia Villar, Po, Marcos, Padilla, Tulfo, and Go. And on the part of the minority, Senator Risa Hontiveros. I so move, Mr. President.
I believe she's also the chairperson.
Sorry.
She's the
That's it,
chairperson.
Mr. President.
Thank you. There being no member objecting to the motion, all members duly read by the majority leader are elected.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I now move that we elect as members of the Committee on Games and Amusement the following senators. On the part of the majority, Senator Bongo as Vice Chair, together with Senator Rafi Tulfo as Vice Chair. Members, Senator Escudero, Revilla, Jinggoy Estrada, Mark Villar, and Robin Hood Padilla. And on the part of the minority, Senator Risa Hontiveros. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the motion of the majority floor leader, these members are duly elected to their posts.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I now move that we elect as members of the Committee on Public Services the following senators. On the part of the majority, Senators Joseph Ejercito, J.V. Ejercito, Francis Tolentino, and Jinggoy Estrada and Bong Revilla as Vice Chair. Members, Senators Binay, De La Rosa, Escudero, Gatchalian, Go, Lapid, and Mark Villar on the part of the majority, and the part of minority, Senator Risa Hontiveros. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the motion of the majority floor leader, all the members mentioned are duly elected.
Mr. President, I now move that we elect as members of the Committee on Local Government the following senators. On the part of the majority, Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa as Vice Chairperson. Members, Senators Angara, Jinggoy Estrada, Gatchalian, Bongo, Marcos, Padilla, Revilla Jr., Tolentino, Tulfo, Cynthia Villar, and the part of minority, Senator Risa Hontiveros. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no member objecting to the motion of the majority floor leader, all the members mentioned are hereby elected.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. At this juncture, I now move that we elect as members of the Committee on Foreign Relations the following senators on the part of the majority: Senator Francis Tolentino as Vice Chair, and members, Senators Cynthia Villar, Go, Padilla, Mark Villar, De La Rosa, Po, Jinggoy Estrada, Lapid, Revilla, Angara, Escudero, Gatchalian, and the part of the minority, Senator Risa Hontiveros. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the motion of the majority floor leader, all members mentioned are hereby duly elected.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. At this juncture, I now move that we elect as members of the Committee on National Defense and Security, Peace, Unification, and Reconciliation the following senators. On the part of the majority, Senators Revilla, De La Rosa, Go, and Joseph Victor Ejercito, Padilla, and Tolentino as Vice Chairpersons, with members Senators Binay, Po, Mark Villar, Gatchalian, Angara, Alan Peter Cayetano, Marcos, Cynthia Villar, Escudero, and on the part of the minority, Senator Hontiveros. I so move, Mr. President.
There be no member objecting to the motion of the majority floor leader, all members that read on record are duly elected.
Yes, Mr. President. At this juncture, I now move that we elect as members of the Committee on Public Works the following senators on the part of the majority: Senator Villar, Senator Mark Villar, Jinggoy Estrada, Go, Po, Gatchalian, Lapid, Padilla, JV Ejercito, Marcos, Tolentino, Tulfo, and on the part of the minority, Ontiveros. I so move, Mr. President.
There's no designation of vice chairman.
There's none right now, Mr. President. We'll ask
We just asked the chairperson.
the chairperson later on, Mr. President.
Who the
Senator,
designates for vice chair.
Revilla. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. Therefore, no objection raised on the motion of the majority floor leader. All members are hereby duly elected.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, this juncture, I move that we elect as members of the Committee on Social Justice, Welfare, and Rural Development the following senators on the part of the majority: Senator Cynthia Villar, Bongo, De La Rosa, Padilla, Revilla, and on the part of the minority, Senator Risa Ontiveros. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no member objecting to the motion of the majority floor leader, all members mentioned are hereby elected.
Mr. President, at this juncture, I now move that we elect the members of the Committee on Constitutional Amendments and Revision of Codes. The following senators on the part of the majority: Senator Tolentino as Vice Chairperson, and members Go, De La Rosa, Revilla, Binay, Jinggoy Estrada, Angara, Po, Pia Cayetano, and Senator Risa Ontiveros on the part of the minority. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the motion of the majority floor leader, all members mentioned are duly elected.
Thank you, Mr. President. I now move, Mr. President, that we elect as members of the Committee on Finance the following senators on the part of the majority: Senator Pia Cayetano as Senior Vice Chair, Senator Loren Legarda, Senior Vice Chair, Senator Amy Marcos, Senior Vice Chair, and for Vice Chairpersons, Senators Cynthia Villar, De La Rosa, Gatchalian, Go, Ontiveros. On the part of the minority, Binay, Po, Tolentino, Mark Villar, JV Ejercito as Vice Chairpersons, and for members, Senator Alan Cayetano, Chis Escudero, Jinggoy Estrada, Lito Lapid, Robin Hood Padilla, Bong Revilla Jr., and Senator Rafi Tulfo. I so move, Mr. President.
Before I act on that motion, how many members, Your Honor, Majority Leader, are with the Finance Committee? Is that without ex-officio members, 20 without ex-officio members?
Yes, there are 20 members, excluding ex-officio members.
So that
Mr.
makes
President.
all members of the Senate as part of the Finance Committee, that's correct?
It
With the
appears,
ex-officio
yes,
members.
Mr. President.
Yeah. So with that, there being no member who objects to the motion of the majority floor leader, all members mentioned are duly elected as members of the committee.
Mr. President, at this juncture, I now move that we elect as members of the Committee on Ways and Means the following senators on the part of the majority: Senator Sani Angara as Vice Chairperson, and members Binay, Pia Cayetano, De La Rosa, JV Ejercito, Escudero, Go, Lapid, Marcos, Po, Tolentino, Tulfo, and Mark Villar, and on the part of the minority, Senator Risa Ontiveros. I so move, Mr. President.
There be no objection to the motion of the majority floor leader. All members mentioned are hereby duly elected.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last but not the least, for today, Mr. President, please allow me to move that we elect as members of the Committee on Public Order and Dangerous Drugs the following senators on the part of the majority: Senators Jinggoy Estrada, Go, Tolentino as Vice Chairpersons, Senators Binay, Ejercito, Po, and Cynthia Villar for the majority, and on the part of the minority, Senator Risa Ontiveros. I so move, Mr. President.
There be no objection to the motion of the majority floor leader. All members mentioned are duly elected. And we congratulate all those members, and they can already proceed their committee hearings and organizational meetings with their members. Yes, Majority Leader. We'd like to have a 1-minute Senate
minute
break.
suspension, Mr. President.
Most welcome. I would welcome that.
Thank
And
you
after
very
which we
much.
go back for a reference of
Thank you
business.
very much, Mr. President.
Session is suspended.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. That was a fruitful caucus inside the Senate lounge. Mr. President, at this juncture, I move that we adjourn the session until 3 o'clock in the afternoon of Wednesday, August 3, 2022. I so move, Mr. President.
Is there any objection? There being none, the session is adjourned until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Wednesday, August 3, 2022. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. President.